I'm live on YouTube for those that want to watch there. Got a little bit better picture. And I'm also live here on TikTok. Thank you guys for joining in. Don't forget to support the channel. We want to keep going, want to keep growing. But tonight, if you've seen the title, we're talking about Druski. And I'm going to go ahead and get right to it. Because let's get something straight right now. A lot of people online love saying three words like they're magical spell. It's just comedy. No, that's not how the law works. That's not how civil liability works. And that is definitely not how reputation damage works in the real world. Tonight, I'm going to break down the Druski skit, his style, the recent controversy, the law of defamation, the law of parody, and the abuse of the phrase fair use. And the real question that nobody asks until it's too late. At what point does the joke stop being protected expression and become legal exposure? Because this is where a lot of people get in trouble. Because the internet has a bad habit of confusing three different things: what's funny, what's offensive, and what's actionable. Now, I want you to understand something because those are not the same categories. So here's the mission tonight. First, I'm going to break down, again, Druski's style and why his comedy hits hard. Second, I'm going to break down the actual law, defamation, parody, public figures, and fair use. Third, I'm going to talk about public backlash and where the backlash changes what creators can or should do. Because, we're in the midst of cancel culture. So this is one of those things that I think this is a good time to address it because of one of the things that Druski did with his new skit. And then I'm going to open it up for a couple of questions people always ask after controversy explodes. And let me make one thing plain at the front end. The recent rumor that Erica Kirk had sent Druski assist and deceased and was publicly denied. And as the current reporting, there is no confirmed legal action from her over that skit. So we want to make sure everybody understands that. I'm going to say that one more time. It is just a rumor that Erica Kirk had sent Druski a cease and desist, and it was publicly denied. Because of current reporting, there is no confirmed legal action from her for that skit. And that matters because online gossip is not evidence and rumor is not procedure. So tonight is not who do you like. It's not whose politics do you hate. It's not whose side are you on. Tonight is about the oldest question in law and power. When speech cuts deep, who carries the burden? Now, I actually want you guys, while we're here in the comments, post protected parody or he went too far. Now, for me, I'll leave mine at the end because at the end of the day, I'm for law, I'm for free speech. And I also understand certain dynamics. But like I said, let's get into it. Druski comedy works because he understands something a lot of performers do not. People do not just laugh at punchlines. They laugh at recognition. That is his real weapon. He's not just telling jokes. He's building a character, a caricature that feels close enough to reality that the audience instantly says, I know exactly who that's supposed to be. Because he's done a couple of characters lately. And I actually like that AI just popped up with a summary. I like that. He's done a couple characters. The last one was before her was the pastors and of the mega churches. He did one with the NASCAR dude, and now the big one is Erica Kirk. Because we call it Erica Kirk, that is not what he said. He actually talked about this is how white conservative women. So when he builds off those, everybody's like, oh, that's her. This is why it worked. Because he's pointing at something and he's mimicking for the most part. Now, his style is built on the exaggeration of just that social observation, awkward realism, and recognizable character types, and a massive mimic, basically mimicking public personalities and culture behavior. Say so. The report about this. Let me slow down a little bit. I should have went and got me something to drink before I started this. Porting also describes him as known as outrageous, character-driven internet videos and notes that his parody fits squarely inside that broader comedic lane because he's not just telling jokes, he's doing something that you can relate to because he's doing something that you see as somebody or a specific type of a cultural behavior from a redneck that likes NASCAR or a megachurch pastor that just goes over the top on what he's doing or over exaggerating a comment that's being made by someone during the interview. And this is why his comedy can move from harmless to dangerous fast. Because the closer the audience gets to saying, yeah, that's clearly this person, the closer you move from general satire into identity based implication. And that distinction matters because there's a difference between, again, here's a joke about a type of person when we talked about the NASCAR dude and the hillbilly. And here's a joke about Erica Kirk, dressed just close enough that I never have to say their name out loud, which again, we're saying Erica Kirk while not being the title of the joke. And that difference is not always fatally illegal, but it's always strategic. And the strategy matters more than ego. Because when Druski appears to do very well is ride that line greatly. Broad social commentary, highly recognizable impersonation, and plausible deniability. Now, with Druski, again, this is not something he just started. This is a learned skill. And it's also legal chess. Why? Because the strongest comedian is controversial, and is not the one who says the wildest things. It is the one who says something people interpret while leaving just enough room to argue. I never made a factual accusation. Because again, we're the ones yelling Erica Kirk, not Druski. He can go and say, I never said that was actually her. We're the one implying that it's her, not him. Because again, not the name of the skit. He can claim this never happened in real life. Why? Because he's exaggerating potential things that were done, which allows us to say, hey, that's her. But he did not do or say the exact things that she did or said. So I made a satirical performance. Why? Because we're the one drawing the inference from it. And that is much stronger posture than a direct accusation. And let me be sharper for this, right? Comedy is not protected because it's comedy. Comedy is protected because of what kind of statement it is. It is the entire fight. Not whether people laughed, not whether people got offended, not whether the internet got mad, not even if we loved it. The real question is, did the creator communicate a false statement of fact? Or did the creator communicate exaggerated expression, parody, rhetoric, or opinionated performance? And Druski draws that line on the latter of the creator communicated an exaggerated expression. Hence, when he talked about the mega churches, he had a dude flying in. Again, it's happened, but he had a dude flying in on like a trapeze type thing. And it's just close enough to where it's not true because it's exaggerated expression, and that is protected by law. And this is where most cases are won or lost. And if you're watching this as a creator, understand the risk later. At the bottom of the risk, general satire, archetypes, absurd exaggeration, obviously fictional scenes, no concrete factual allegations. This is one of the things where you can go and kind of point to something such as Saturday Night Live. That is one of the great satire, what do you call it, satiric comedies, because they've been doing it for years and they go just close enough to where you're like, yeah, I know what they're talking about. But you actually fall in love with the actual character or the actor, not necessarily the character, because you can actually separate it. With Druski, because of his makeup, because of the other things that he adds in just enough real to be exaggerated for the satire. Now, your higher risk is a highly identifiable real person, which again was the Erica Kirk, because when everybody saw it, that was the first name that popped out everybody's head. And then some of the things, the mannerisms that he took in, the real world timing. Again, this is why we were drawn to it, because it was an exaggerated expression of someone that was highly identifiable. And this is one of the things that most people will miss. And the specific visual mimic. While he mimicked certain movements, he over exaggerated those mimicked movements. He over exaggerated the things that she alleged to have said and got close to. Now, real life controversy, it was created by his parody and context suggesting hidden factual assertions. Again, these are the higher risk, which is where Druski plays at. And this is why a lot of people kind of latched onto it, because it's easy to believe it. Because if you're talking about the high risk that are in the defamation type parody comedy slash realm, Druski hit all of them because highly identifiable person. As soon as we saw, oh, that's Erica Kirk. He's playing Erica Kirk. But again, it was he's playing. And then when he used these suggestive things, we knew they were exaggerated, which is why he was still protected, which is why the internet was so ready to latch on him being sued, her sending him to cease, because he was so close. He 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 was a tightrope walker on this, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. Right now, again, highest risk, implied criminal conduct. We didn't see that in there. Implied dishonesty. We didn't see that in there anywhere. Implied abuse, implied private facts, implied misconduct framed so the audience understands it as true. Now, here's why that's dangerous, because a lot of people don't understand this, because even a lot of TikTokers will do things, and it's the implied conduct that frames something as if it's true. Well, somebody will say, well, you do bad cop. Exactly. I use court documents. I don't use just random things and or take a news article and say, hey, this is what happened. No, I have the documents. So if someone goes and say, well, you're defaming me or you're framing me as it's in, okay, cool. I'm reading what's in the document. I'm not putting anything out there except for what's in the document. And if it is true, you are a bad cop. Now, the problem is 99.9%, I'm right. I have been wrong one time. And the great part about it, because a lot of people don't know this, these officers, I have a lot of officers that follow me, that watch my show, that listen to the things I speak about. I had an officer, I put his information up, and he contacted me and said, hey, brother, that's wrong. And he sent me, boom, here you go, documents. And I was like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. I said, appreciate it. And you know what I did? I went immediately and deleted it. Why? Because he was like, hold on, I get where you got that from, but here's the right information. Cool. Because he gave me new information that showed that what I had done was wrong. Now, could I have been an ass and left it up? Absolutely. Because again, I had information supporting what I had put up. But had I left it up, knowing I have new information, knowing what I had put up originally was not to be true as it was originally put out, that would make the information bad. That would make it defamatory and actionable. Because again, I'm framing misconduct to the audience as if it's true. So that's where, again, where the comedy is, and that's where the law begins. Because you have to understand, this is when the joke stopped being a joke in the courtroom. This is where news stopped being news in the courtroom. Because it's one thing to say a joke, it's another thing to imply something that is completely false. Because if I'm telling it to my audience as it's true, and I understand it that it's not, that will be a misleading thing from me, which would be a form of defamation. Now, and what makes Druski interesting again is because his style is not careless. Like you see him, and I'm not gonna lie to you, Druski is not my cup of tea. He's I don't readily watch Druski. I'm not a Druski fan. However, and I'm gonna tell you the biggest reason being is because I look at a lot of stuff he's doing as buffoonery. Because it's like, you're an adult. Why are you behaving like this? And you don't have to. Because I see he's super talented, but I understand what he's doing. He's great at what he does, so he can take on these characters. He can be precise with his disrespect. I want you to understand. He can put something out that is so close to the line. Like again, this last skit, which got him. I don't even think this was his most popular skit, which is funny to me. But it got him the most notoriety because he got so close to the line that nobody could tell if it was an actual joke and if even the lawsuit was real or not. That's how close he got, that they couldn't separate what's legal and lawful between what he did and what actually was happening. And that's why I respect what he does, because he knows the audience will do half the work for him. Because, like I said, when he did the skit, we knew exactly who he was talking about. He didn't have to say anything. He lets recognition carry the blow. And Here's the great part. Drop this in the comments. Recognition is the weapon. Because most people don't understand. That is the first big lesson tonight. Recognition is the weapon. Great. Just give you an idea. I have an iPhone, not because iPhone is the best phone out there. I am in the Apple system, not because the Apple system is the best one out there. It was the one that caught me first. Why? Because everybody that came out with a phone was comparing it to Apple. Everybody that comes out with a shoe is comparing it to Nike. Everybody that that has a clothing line is comparing it to Polo. To the fact that they say, okay, come get this Tommy Hilfiger Polo shirt. Because they have a standard. They set the standard. And I just follow behind the standard to the point to where Druski is going through these things due to recognition being weaponized. We go to McDonald's because we recognize it. We go, and the thing is, most of us don't even realize why we like a Louis Vuitton bag, because they've weaponized recognition. We associate quality and luxury with the LV. Does that mean the LV you have is high quality or high luxury because you paid a high price for it? We just recognize it as that. And that's what Druski is doing. He's weaponizing recognition. And he's doing that through his caricatures. Okay, now let's strip down this to nobody hides behind fake legal vocabulary. Defamation at its core means this, and I want everybody to pay attention to this. You made a false statement purporting it to be fact. You published it to a third party. You were at least negligent and caused reputational harm. This is the basic framework of defamation. Not insult, not mockery, not being mean, not hurting somebody's feelings. A lot of people online say that that's defamation, when that really means is I hated it. Because I want you to understand something. If insulting someone is defamation, I defame myself all the time because I'm constantly insulting people. If you look in the comments, I'm insulting people. That's not defamation. Mockery. I mock the police officers that I talk about all the time. That's not defamation. Being mean, I am mean to everybody. It's not defamation. Hurting somebody's feelings, don't really give a shit about them. That's not defamation. And at the end of the day, a lot of people don't understand the standard. And law is not a hurt feeling statute. It's not designed to punish every rude or ugly statement. Because if that was the case, there's a bunch of you people. Anyway, it's designed to address false factually injury, false factual injury to reputation. Understand? Defamation is a false factual injury to reputation. Because again, what we talk about with the Constitution, man can protect his reputation. Because that is more than gold. Because here's the flip side of that. I want you to understand something. Even if you say something about someone that is construed as negative to their reputation, if they're able to grow with that thing, let's say this guy is Jesse James, notorious outlaw. It didn't hurt his reputation. It actually changed how he was perceived. He accepted being an outlaw. So it's not being mean to him by saying that. It didn't hurt his feelings by calling him that. It didn't change anything. It wasn't a factual injury because he was an outlaw. And the difference was he owned it. It wasn't a care about it. And that's where a lot of people miss it at. And this is why parody survives so often. because parody usually does not present itself as literal fact. It presents itself as performance, distortion, exaggeration, and mockery. And that's exactly what we thought when we saw him playing the conservative white woman, not Erica Kirk. And the more obvious the exaggeration, the stronger the protection. Now, did he take a lot, again, her mannerisms and he still over exaggerated. Here's the thing: even when he walks out, he does the little dance that he's done in damn near every video I've seen him in. So we know it's Druski. He's doing his thing in real time for us, and that's what makes it beautiful for me. Okay, with the Birdman hands. Anyway, now it's time to go a little layer deeper. If the target is a public figure, the burden gets higher for the plaintiff. Erica Kirk, because of her husband, is a public figure. She's now presenting herself as a public figure. And for a public figure, they must prove actual malice. That means clear and convincing evidence that the speaker made a defamatory falsehood, knowing it was false, or with reckless disregard for the truth. I'm gonna reread that one because I know that's gonna go over people's head. In order for Erica Kirk to have sued Druski, she would have to have proved actual malice, which means clear and convincing evidence that Druski made a defamatory falsehood, knowing it was false, or with reckless disregard for the truth. Yes, I paused for dramatic effect because I wanted that to sink in because a lot of people are missing this. And this again is why I do this. This is why I have the channel because it's amazing to me all these people that want to get on here and talk law have no clue of what actual law is. And DJ, absolutely. Eminem tried to make a mockery out of Michael Jackson. And it's a parody. And that's what most people don't understand and why it's protected because it was exaggerated. He was playing a character. And that's why it's one of those things that most people miss. Because in a free society, speech about public figures cannot be strangled every time somebody with visibility gets embarrassed. So when the target is famous, prominent, politically visible, or has placed themselves in the middle of public controversy, the plaintiff road gets steeper. Because here's the great part about it. I watch a lot of people go out and they want to be influencers. Why, I don't know. Other than the fact that they think this is easy and they think this money just flows in. And I've watched, the last few days, I actually watched, what's the comedian Mojo? I watched him and Country Wayne talk about how the money has changed in the new social media. So being an influencer is a completely different thing now. And both of them also spoke about not depending on views for the things that you're looking for. So you have to be doing something, even in this, that takes your clients offline, where you're getting money offline. Because if you're remaining online, that number looks different. So being an influencer and then getting upset with scrutiny. Was that Cooking with Kaya? Kaya hated people talking about her. Well, you were shaking your ass a couple months ago and talking about how rich you were, but now it's a problem that people are talking about you because she placed herself in the middle of a public issue and she basically she made herself visible for the world and then got upset that the world was looking at her. That's not defamation because if you want to prove defamation, you have to prove actual malice when you're doing this. And that does not mean public figures have no remedy. It just means more than outrage. and they need proof. But here's the thing that I also tell people. The flip side of that is this. No, there's this thing called tortious interference. I spoke about this a couple of times. You don't have to go the defamation route if you're a public figure. Because if the parody actually cost you money, a la Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, actually, Chris Rock was going to sue until he realized after he was slapped, he made more money. That's why, because I heard a lot of people, well, why he didn't sue? Well, it didn't cost Chris money. Chris actually made money from the slap. He got extra deals. He had 3 shows after the Oscars that weren't sold out until after he got slapped. Then everybody wanted to see him because he was still going out. So it was like, yeah, I can't sue Will now because I'm making more money. Because even in that, he created and grew selective outrage. While it was already in the works, he got a bigger number because of the slap from Will Smith. He was publicly embarrassed by this man. But then he parlayed that into something of substance. So kudos to him, bad for Will. But now let's get the case people should actually know. Because that's what I'm doing. Supreme Decisions. I give you guys cases. Hustler v. Falwell. Oh, excuse Falwell. Goodness, it's still too late. Anyway, Falwell. Falwell. Hustler v. Falwell. The case matters because the Supreme Court held that public figures cannot recover for emotional distress claims arise from parody unless the publication contains false statement of facts made with actual malice. Cornell's summary put it plainly. If the speech could not reasonably be interpreted as stating actual facts about the public figure, it remains protected even if it's offensive and intended to inflict emotional injury. Even if I'm trying to hurt your feelings, even if I'm doing, it's still protected. And this is massive protection for parody. Hustler v. Falwell. Falwell. I'm too country or something. I don't know why I can't pronounce that. It just is amazing to me. Anyway, but here's why. The law understands that satire is often ugly. A parody is often vicious. Mockery is often humiliating. Because generally, you know what's funny? I'm gonna give you a great one, then I'm gonna move on. I love children, not because I just like kids. I love the way children see the world. Now, I have a story about my daughter, and it was the most hilarious thing in my life. Because one day I'm coming home, I come home, take a shower, I come out, her and her mom's getting ready to leave. I put on my clothes and I grab my shoes. She said, "Oh, you getting ready to go play baggy ball?" Because that's how she pronounced basketball. And I said, "Yeah." Now, her mom says, "Show your daddy how he plays." My daughter, 2 years old at the time, looks me in my face and does this. And I said, "Wait, what?" And she does it again. And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "That's how you see me?" Now, she was mimicking what she thought she was seeing. And to her, she was doing it perfect. Apparently, I'm just some flailing fool throwing my arms around and not buckets. But it was amazing to me because even if it was the mockery of it, her exaggerating my moves, it was funny as hell. Like now, I have friends that do stuff that mock me with and mimic. It's not designed to be exact. It is designed to make you laugh. And that's what it is. Rather we attach the word humiliating to it, rather we attach all this other things to it to make it negative. It's still satire. It's still comical. Whether I like it or not, that's how they see me. I can't get upset about how somebody else sees me. And that I said that because it's the easiest one, because it's we can all relate to a kid mimicking us. And it's like, that's how I look to you. And so when we're seeing these parodies, that's how these people look to the person that's emulating them. Whether they like it or not, that's how you look to them. That's how you sound to them. And it's one of those things, whether, like I said, you can get upset about it or you can just laugh it off and be like, this fool, the world is this warped for this idiot. But but it's still, the First Amendment does not protect speech that is polite. It protects speech that shocks, insults, and is ridiculous. Even if it ridicules you, as long as it does not cross into actionable false facts into the relevant context. So if someone's mimicking you because that's how they see you, that's what the law protects. That is the First Amendment. That is Hustler v. Falwell. Well, Falwell. So we can go and look that up. So if a reasonable person sees the performance and says, this is a joke, this is this is funny. This is not actual factual report. This is a strong terrain for the speaker. Now, here's the thing again, because I'm bashing these cats, because if you even watch the or listen to the breakdown I did of the Carmelo Anthony case, I go at these guys that are basically, they're creating scenarios, they're creating facts in the Carmelo case, and then they're passing it off as true. And then, well, just give you an example, and then I'm gonna move on. I heard a young lady on TikTok literally today. Let's start with today. She created a scenario. She asked a question based off the scenario she created about the Carmelo Anthony case. Then she argued against the person who argued against her scenario, which had nothing to do with the case. And then she spoke about it as if it was fact. So when someone actually told her, like, that's your scenario, she's like, well, no, that's what happened. Like, no, you actually posed it as a scenario. And it was like she had convinced herself that what she said was factual and was true and was genuine. And I was like, this is how she sees the world. Her world, she says the craziest, wildest stuff, and then she builds everything around the stuff that's in her head. And the reason why I actually relate to that is because I had an ex, and and Lord knows, she asked me one day, we had been separated for, I want to say 7 or 8 years. And she asked me one day, why did we separate? I said, because you lived 90% of our relationship in your head. She would create a situation and then be like, you did it. And I was like, that never happened. But she would then argue from the point of her thoughts, not an actuality. She would have entire conversations with me when I was not present, which was the craziest thing to me. But again, it's one of those aha moments, because again, it's one of the, for me, this is what I'm relating the internet BS to. Because people say it's just my opinion. That does not automatically save you. Because in Milkovich, Milkovich, the Supreme Court made clear there is no sweeping constitutional privilege for anything labeled opinion. If the statement implies an assertion of objective fact, it can still be actionable. The court specifically explained that loose, figurative, or hyperbolical language can matter. But if the statement reads like a serious assertion of fact, the opinion label does not rescue it. That is the one thing that I talked about when I was listening to these people. They created they created a scenario, which would be their opinion, or just something that's just pulled out of air, and then spoke about it as if it was factual. It then becomes dangerous because when they're asserting it, they're putting passion behind it as if it is real. That is what the defamation does not protect. The Constitution does not protect that. And that is something that I'm seeing amazingly on TikTok with basically just that one case, because 90% of the time I'm just scrolling. And I see that because that piques my interest. Why, I don't know, other than the fact that he's in Texas. That's literally it. And I'm curious. I'm good with it, but I'm curious. And I think that's the separation that I have. So it's critical. So if someone says, in my opinion, this person committed fraud, that may still communicate as a factual allegation, which is why whenever I also spoke earlier, I talked about, even as a public figure, you can be using tortious interference. And that's what makes this type of speech dangerous, because you're talking and you're not talking with fact. You're speaking emotionally and you're throwing my opinion on it. And then you're speaking about your opinion as if it is fact, which makes it not holy water. And if the audience takes it as a factual claim, you may have an actual problem. Because just because you're throwing my opinion on it does not make it anything else. Because the court is definitely not emotional. It doesn't care about your feelings. It don't it doesn't care about what you claim as your intent after the fact either. So again, now I'm gonna get back to the story, but I wanted to kind of tie it in, and then hopefully you were able to relate to any of this stupidness that I'm speaking about. Now, let's talk about the overused fair use, because the internet says fair use the way drunk people say, I know my rights. Because I actually did a thing one day because I used to play in this little league. It was called the officers game. Right? I never paid attention that these were all cops. But anyway, it was a guy in there, we were talking, had the keys, and I told him, I said, here's the easy. I said, if you ever want to know if someone doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and I yelled out the cops, what's the automatic tell that someone doesn't know what's going on? All of them, I think it was 12 or 15 guys in there. All of them yelled out, I know my rights. Here's the thing that I love, because I'm going to give you the story of Samson. Everybody kept asking Samson, where you get your strength from? Now, a lot of people, you're kind of confused. Why? Because every story that you see with Samson's this huge dude. He's muscular and ripped and got a 24-inch python and a 22-inch neck. Now, if you saw that guy, would you ask him where you get your strength from? But you know he's strong as hell, right? So obviously, he's more like the little guy that we're seeing now in the weight room. He's a power lifter, but he looks like he's 110 pounds soaking wet. You're asking him, how are you able to lift that? Why? Because he does not look like he can lift it. I don't have to tell people I am huge when I'm standing next to someone. Why? Because my presence says I'm huge. If you know your rights, you never have to use I know my rights, because this and your actions will display you knowing your rights. Because just because you know your rights, do you know how to apply them? And at the end of the day, and let me answer Sage's question. I'm not a fan of Druski. It's not a don't like. I'm just not a fan of it. But I actually applaud the way he applies his work. Now, back to fair use. I hope that answered your question, Sage. All right. Now, when you yell out, I know my rights, fair use is a copyright doctrine. It's not universal comedy shield. It's not a defamation shield. It's not a reputation shield. It's not I can say whatever I want shield. Right? Now, understanding the context of fair use when it comes to this and in a few other cases. The United States Copyright Office explained that fair use is a case by case analysis focused on 4 factors: the purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount of use, and the effect on the market. Transformative uses are more like to qualify, but commercial status is only part of the analysis, which is why you can come on TikTok and have 30,000 songs playing in the background if you get it from TikTok. I'm gonna say that one more time. You get on TikTok and have all the music you want if you get it from TikTok. If you have music playing on YouTube, you're getting a copyright strike. Why is that? Because even if you have fair use, there are limitations to it. Because even YouTube will be like, hey, you want music? We got music. You use our music. Because they are the one who have the licensing. Now, if you have the licensing, you have free reign, by all means, add it in. But understand, fair use is not free use. And give you another example of fair use. There's a share button on here. And what I've liked it because it didn't happen to me a lot. People wasn't sharing my videos like that. But now I got videos with duets and I got people post them to their page. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That's great. But that's fair use because I'm putting it out there. Because if I did not want it shared, I could actually block that and take that license away. So if someone wanted to use my video, they will have to come to me first. And that's the context of that. But understanding there are separations in that. Because when you're doing things and you understand the context of law behind it, it's different. So let's put it that way. So now in Campbell v. Ashcroft Rose is ACUFF-ROSE. It matters because the Supreme Court said parody does not lose automatically just because it's commercial. Parody still has to work together, have to work through the fair use factors case by case. Give you a great example. You look at, matter of fact, I'm not even going to use it. My brother has a restaurant. I've done maybe 3 or 4 videos where I've used music in them. But they're actual videos where we're doing skits. And in the skits, we're singing along to the music and we're doing certain things. Because even one of the things I actually like, my favorite, is I did a parody of what is the Justin Bieber, the DJ Khaled song with Justin Bieber and Drake. I did a parody with that. There was no copyright strike on it. It's on YouTube now. It's on a couple of platforms. No copyright strikes. Why? Because the music, while it plays all the way through, is low in the background and it's a play on the video, not the song. So I recreated the video in the midst of a hamburger spot. And again, the parody is protected under fair use. I did another one with Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us. Again, it's protected under fair use because I chopped the song up while using it. But again, did a parody on the video, not the song, because there are different, again, case by case analysis, so no copyright strikes. And the real point is a lot of creative controversies, fair use is not even the main issue, right? If you're not copying a protected work in some substantial way, the copyright may not be the center of gravity at all. So that, and again, that's why I brought that up, because I've done parodies using commercial works. Now, if I had a McDonald's, actually I did one with, I think I did one with McDonald's and Five Guys and all. It wasn't that popular, so that's probably why they didn't care. But again, those are different types of copyrighted work, right? Because the real issues are instead defamation, false light, right of publicity, because again, putting yourself in a position to be seen, TikTok, YouTube, lives, trademark confusion. When if you watch Coming to America, you have McDonald's and the McDowells. They have the Golden Arches, he has the Golden Arc. And platform consequences. Again, YouTube and TikTok. YouTube, don't get the music from them, it's coming down. Don't get it from TikTok, potentially coming down. So it's understanding where the line is. And that's exactly why sloppy online legal commentary is useless. Oh, I said it. I said it. Sloppy online legal commentary is useless because 90% of the people that are doing what I'm doing, pretending to do what I'm doing, are not doing what I'm doing because I'm giving you guys actual cases. Here's the thing. When what I'm giving you, you can go and look up. And that's the biggest part of it. But understanding the context and how it's going to be used. Now, I'm gonna go back. I'm loving you, Sage. I want you to understand something. Go back to the beginning when this over with. Go from the beginning and listen because what you just posted or what you just asked was already answered when I first came on. So I hope, yeah, go listen to it. That's where it's at. Now, parody don't necessarily mean fair use. Because again, I've done some where with brands, which was again Five Guys, McDonald's, I think Jack in the Box. They didn't come after me because the video wasn't that good or it didn't get that many views. So if it blows up one day, then yeah, it'll probably be an issue because, like I said, I'm using actual brands. I'm saying, while it's a parody, I am saying things about those brands. So I touched the line. I ain't crossed it. I just touched it several times throughout the whole video. Anyway, so if the conflict is about a person rather than a copyrighted work, fair use may not be the main battlefield. The right of publicity, by contrast, concerns unauthorized commercial use of a person's name, likeness, or recognizable persona and is governed largely by state law. I'm going to read that one more time. The right of publicity is not defamation and it is not fair use, but it is under the copyrighted work statute. And this is where a lot of people miss because you have copyright and then you have defamation. There are things under defamation. You have copyright. There are things under copyright. So when people start, that's defamation, but you can't tell me the context of it. And this is again why I talk about sloppy online legal commentary, because they're talking about something they don't fully understand. And in order to beat the rules of this game, first you have to know what the game is. Then you have to master the game so you can actually then bend those rules. Because not only do you have to understand how every piece works, you have to understand every defensible piece and or every defense against that piece, so you can then maneuver both ways and use that piece strategically. Because if I only know how it moves, but I don't know how it can protect, it's no use to me because I only know one thing. And most people that start doing this, they only know one thing. So it becomes sloppy. So when I talk about things like right of publicity, right? By contrast, concerns unauthorized commercial use of a person's name. This is where something like doxing comes in. Yes, you can be sued for doxing. However, most of the times it is largely governed by state law. So here in Texas, do it if you like to. They got something for you, right? That's why I love Texas. I love Texas. Anyway, I love Texas for a multitude of reasons. But anyway, it's understanding the context of all of this. Copyright asks, did you lawfully use a protected work? Defamation asks, did you communicate a false factual statement that harmed someone's reputation? And publicity, did you commercially exploit someone's identity without permission? Now, I'm going to say this because and this is where I like to watch the auditors because they go out and they give, well, I'm giving you a education on the First Amendment. That's great. The problem is the education that they are attempting to give is not just First Amendment. It's the Open Government Act of 2008, which was re-signed in 2014, which is why they keep making references towards the DHS letter, Department of Homeland Security. Now, when you're forgetting about all of that, you don't even understand the crux of why those two exist because you're going out with partial weapons. So when you don't understand the tiers of all of this and understand there are three different fights, there are three different weapons, and there are three different defenses for all of them, you are missing the boat on the education you're attempting to give. And this is why I do what I do. And just like I spoke earlier, if you mix them together, you lose the clarity of what it is that you're attempting to defend or attempting to apply because all of them have separate moves because it's just like we're playing chess. My pawns move one way. My king moves one way. My bishops, my knights, all of them move differently. They're on the same board. They're different weapons. They're different defenses. And most people will miss that. And this is why when I tell people the legal commentary that's here, nobody does what I do. I'm at a different level because I prepare at a different level. And this is why I'm doing this because again, I'm hearing, watching it, becoming tired of. And then I want you guys to actually get something of substance, right? So now put in the comments, fair use is not a universal shield because that sentence alone would save a lot of creators from sounding ignorant on camera. See, an insult, and it's protected. So anyway, okay, let's apply the framework instead of me just acting like I'm smart. You know what I'm saying? Okay, based on reporting, March 25th, 2026, controversy centered Druski skit. How conservative women, and I actually put in white, it was actually Conservative Women in America Act. He didn't, he actually put a plural. So the person we associated it to had to be multiple people because he said how conservative women in America act, which many viewers connected to Erica Kirk. NBC and the GO both described the video as parody satire that triggered massive attention, while the GO reported that neither Erica Kirk nor her organization had publicly confirmed that interpretation that there was no indication she planned legal action at the time. Newsweek separately reported the cease and desist was false. Now, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on TikTok, move over here to YouTube, because TikTok is getting ready to end, and I'm not going to start it back up until I do my next video later. But if you're on TikTok, Supreme Decisions on YouTube, that's where I'm going to finish this live at. So if you're there, go on and move over. Now, again, not my opinion. March 25th, 2026. Was that NBC and the Grill both described the video as satire and a parody. GO reported that Erica Kirk nor her organization had publicly confirmed the interpretation and had no indication she planned legal action. Because remember, that was the whole buzz. Newsweek, so again, these are on the sources, separately reported the cease and desist rumor was false. So that's the great part of it. So it's understanding. Again, you might get upset with the stuff I'm saying. I am using real reports. I'm not just talking. That's why I give you where I got it from. That's why I give you cases. So I'm not just sitting here just running off at the mouth and not doing what I'm telling you I'm going to do. Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to check the stuff that I'm saying. Now, that matters because you have to separate what viewers inferred from what was actually asserted. Because again, the internet said, oh, she filed a lawsuit against Druski. Druski responded, which was an AI, and she sent him a cease and desist letter, which was a lie. Because they caught the lie. If you notice, and hello, Chosen to Shine, and if you notice, that lie spread faster than the truth, because the truth came out March 25th. Did you know it was out? Did you know it was a lie that we had been seeing? Because honestly, I hadn't. And that's the whole game. So now, let's walk this step by step. Is the target identifiable? In this case, absolutely. If the audience overwhelmingly understands the skit as pointing at a specific public personality, then identifiability is not some imaginary issue. You do not have to say their name if the audience already knows who the joke is aimed at. That does not automatically create liability, but it checks the first box of a strategic potential plaintiff. Did the skit communicate false factual claims? That's a pressure point. This skit is broad and exaggerated in style about mannerisms, ideologies, posture, and public behavior that looks much more like satire, because he did use a lot of or mimic her mannerisms, but he was overly exaggerating with the words he said. He was overly exaggerating with her movements, but at the end of the day, he, like I said, he touched every he touched every line. He never crossed it, and that's why he's protected. Because if the skit instead implied concrete false facts like criminal acts, secret misconduct, fraudulent behavior, hidden real world events that become more dangerous, but he never did that. So once that box is unchecked, the rest of it doesn't matter, because he never implied anything false about her, even though we immediately took it straight to her. Now, from the reporting we have, the recent Druski controversy appears to sit much closer to mockery than to a specific factual accusation. And that is why the parody defense will look much stronger than the defamation claim on the facts publicly described so far. So now, is the target a public figure? Yes, she was. So now, does the backlash change the law? No. Right? Public outrage does not turn parody into defamation. Trending posts do not replace pleadings. Right? 1,000 people screaming online does not satisfy the burden of proof, but backlash does not change risk. And that part matters because creators don't just fight in court, they fight in the market. Okay. You know why? Because we have cancel culture. And that's what a lot of people try to rest everything on. Why? Not because how Dave Chappelle is the king of it. Because he's supposed to have been canceled 1,000 times. And it just, for me, because even my understanding of it, the baby canceled 1,000 times. And all of them spoke about it just changes the right now money. Why? Because the sponsors care, the platforms care, the collaborators care, the agents care, studios, the brands, the future plaintiff lawyers care. But you look at someone like, look, great example, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate still gets paid. It looks different than it did 2 years ago, but Andrew Tate still gets paid. Andrew Tate can come get on somebody's live right now. It'll explode and he'll get paid. Fresh and Fit. Myron is probably the worst one at it, right? Myron understands the context. He's been demonetized, he's been kicked off, he's been blocked. He still goes back to these platforms and performs because Myron still gets paid. Yes, the canceling exists, but the people that care don't matter to them. So when you're looking at that, right? When you're looking at that, the biggest idea that most people miss is that when someone's protecting their speech and watching how they speak is because they're dependent on someone else because they're trying to stay within a lifestyle. But when you do that, you then become a puppet. And that's what a lot of people try to stay away from now because the law might say you're protected. The market will still punish you. And this is why smart creators don't only ask, can I post this? They ask, can I defend this 6 months from now? After the context is stripped away and only the clip survives. And that's the adult question. And the reason why that's a question is because I'm going to give you two great instances of that. There was a young man. I believe he was at the University of Kentucky. He was a sophomore. They had just won the national championship. The first question to him was, what did you mean about this statement when you said the N word when you were 14? Young man looks up and goes, you pulled up a Twitter post that's 5 years old and you're asking me context of a 14-year-old now and I'm in college? Can he defend it 6 months from now after the context has been stripped away and only the clip survives? Kevin Hart lost the Oscars. Why? Because of a joke he had said about his son. His own child. He said a joke about his child. The sponsors cared. The platform cared. The collaborators cared. And that's the thing when you're when you're when you're worrying about the ideas of someone that's supposed to be feeding you. That's when it becomes a problem. So while most of this, even with the parody, These are things, again, a comedian, a basketball player. One was a child whenever he said something. And it was just the most asinine thing I'd ever seen in my life. But when you come to this, the law does not reward stupidity. They're protected, but you have to march through it. And that's all I was talking about whenever I was bringing that in. But now, let's separate rumor from procedure. There's a real internet chatter in late March 2026 after allegedly Eric Kirk sending a cease and desist, but again, that was publicly denied. There was also a separate civil case in 2025 in which Druski was named along with others in an amended complaint. That case was later dismissed for failure to prosecute, meaning dismissal turned on procedural noncompliance, not as merit finding that allegations were true or false. And that distinction is critical because sloppy commentators love collapsing everything into one sentence. Right? Druski got sued. That sentence hides entirely too much. The real legal analyst asks, who sued, for what, when, what court, what was the claim, procedural posture, what was the service? Basically, you go through a real litany of questions. And that's how real analysts do litigation. So the lesson for your audience is simple. Do not treat accusations, rumor, and adjudication like they're the same event. Just because someone asserts something and they say, oh, he did this, he did, that doesn't make it true. Show me. Because the one thing I learned, a lie doesn't care who tell it, and anyone can talk. You can say anything to sound good. Cause I always tell people I'm watching how you moving. Because that's where the difference lies. And drop in the comments, rumor is not procedure. Because that actually might belong on a t-shirt. Anyway, now let's move from doctrine to reality. Does controversy change how creators operate? And that's absolutely. Because the Constitution doesn't change. The tort elements doesn't change. Because parody suddenly disappears. So it doesn't matter that they're putting together something, a skit or something that you don't like. It don't even matter if you put something together that you love. All that matters is the facts of not even intention, but actuality. The actuality of malice. Because it changes because attitude now functions like evidence on the internet. Every post is archived. Every caption is screenshot. Every comment is clipped. Every live stream is screen recorded. And every joke explanation becomes an exhibit. And that's the real shift. Because most people will sit there and just accept foolishness or buffoonery as something real when it's not. Because a year ago, a creator could say something outrageous and let it vanish in the air. Now, that post is going to show up somewhere. The edit is going to stay somewhere. Everybody's doing a reaction to everything now. And the last part is where creators bury themselves. Because very often the original content is not defensible. And then there's no follow-up. The joke might survive. The exclamation might kill it. The skit might look like parody. The post after the skit might look like an admission. The ambiguity might protect you. Your ego might destroy your ambiguity. And that's why creators need discipline. But here's the next part about it. You are an adult. Quit explaining yourself to other adults. That's the main thing. You are an adult. Stop explaining everything that you do to another adult. You're an adult. You did it because you wanted to do it. That's what it is. Let them, if something's wrong with it and they don't like it, you know the word that you're going to insert right there. So, it is what it is. And it's understanding if you build your brand on boundary pushing comedy, then your real legal team is not your lawyer, it's your restraint. And here's the creator rule book in plain English: leave room for parody. If your material is supposed to be satire, make sure it reads as satire. Avoid hidden factual accusations. Do not imply crimes, fraud, abuse, secret misconduct, private facts unless you are prepared to prove them. Bad cop. Anyway, do not clarify yourself into liability. Stop explaining yourself, because a lot of people survive the first parody and die in the second one. Do not confuse virality with safety. Going viral proves reach, not legality. And public backlash is not the same as legal strength. A mob can be loud and still legally wrong. 90% of these bastards that are doing commentary on the Carmelo Anthony case, mobs, they're loud. It's literally like 5 of them a day. Just scroll TikTok. You'll find them. And still be legally wrong because they're creating something without reading. And then timing matters. Mocking a person during or around a fresh public tragedy, scandal, or volatile culture event might intensify backlash even if the speech is still protected. This is not a new legal element. It's the reality of audience perception. And here's the deeper issue. Creators now live in a world where the audience wants both things at once. They want fearless comedy. They also want perfect sensitivity because everything offends everybody now. And they want you to be able to read their mind and also feel everything they feel, but they want you to be different while thinking the exact same. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. So it's okay that these people often create something where the creator must choose a lane. If your lane is sharp satire, then accept the consequences. People will accuse you of crossing the line. If your lane is safe brand compliance, then accept the consequences. Comedy will probably get weaker, and that's your trade-off. And the reason Druski becomes useful in the case study is not because he's the only one doing it. It's because his style exposes the core contradiction in internet culture. People say what they want, people say they want free expression until expressions lands on their side. Because just like I took the I took the I took the slogan, back to blue, right? Because it's a very popular slogan. Put it on a shirt, back to blue until it's you. Why? Because I have so many stories where people were gung ho, police, 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 until the police did them wrong. Now it's F the police. Now everybody turning to NWA. And that's the thing that I talk about because everybody is strong with no resistance. And it's cool to be somewhere until you can be against something until it happens to you. And I watch it time and time again because most people do not catch the ideals of what actuality of our current policing is. But that is why this conversation matters. It's not just about the policing. It's not just about a slogan. It's not even just about Druski. It's about the context of what really matters in law and why it matters in law. Because real freedom of expression is tested at the edge, not in the middle. I can't tell you where the line is if I never go near it. So that's where we're at. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to support the channel. Let's keep going. Let's keep growing. Don't forget to hit the Cash App. Don't forget to hit the Zelle. Don't forget to hit the Super Chats. Thank you guys for hitting the thumbs up. I love y'all, and I will see y'all. I'm not sleepy, so I might do another one in a few. But if not, I'll see you guys in the morning.